Hey, how you doing, Pat here? This is the second video I promised you about. Oh, sorry, I got the bike rocking here. This is the TriplTek mount that I was talking about in my previous video. This is the latest and greatest from TriplTek. I also had an actual 8-inch RAM mount, tablet mount on here that I'm going to talk about a little bit in this video. That's the one that went to Alaska with me and back, but that trip pretty well killed that bracket. We have this new bracket now, and let me go pick up the camera and I'll bring you over and show you what I've done. And I'm going to apologize up front because this is going to be really hard to do, but here is the cable that powers the unit, and it has its own power supply adapter that goes back to my Hex Easy Can, and it converts it from 12 volts to 9 volts, I think it is. Even though it's a USB connector, this thing can charge that way. And then it's got this special compartment here where the charging port lives. So right here is the charging port. So obviously you put the laptop in that way. And you have this piece right here that puts it in place. And you just kind of snug this down. And that is the default design of this, and it works great, it really does, but there's no anti-theft properties to it. Now that being said, there are two options. The first option was this. They sell a really long Torx bolt that's what you call a safety Torx. It has the male stud in the center of it, so at least you need a tool to unscrew this to get the laptop out. But I saw it on Facebook a while back, and I thought it was a private individual. Maybe it was, or maybe they sold the design to TriplTek, or they're working together. And this is going to be really hard to show you, but some smart person came up with this little locking device that when you have it in there, you just push this tab in, and it locks it. Now, is it super safe and super secure where it can't be stolen? Obviously not. It just prevents the theft of opportunity, but it's better than nothing. So I like it a lot. Unfortunately, I'm going to film this a little bit through my windshield, but that is the bracket that I made. It's bracket number 2, basically. So what I did is I used a piece of aluminum. I drilled all the holes in it. I drilled the center hole, then I obviously cut it in half. And that piece right here, again, it's just something custom made. It's what I did myself. You're going to have to come up with your own mounts. That worked great with the RAM mount because it had a standoff, kind of like this extra piece of aluminum I had to add on to bolt this new tablet mount to. These two screws right here is what holds that locking mechanism on. These, I want to say they're like a standard bolt pattern for RAM mount stuff, but what I chose to do is just actually bolt it down myself. The first one I just decided to drill a smaller hole, which I didn't care for it being that small, but instead of removing it, I just left the bolt in, and then I drilled these 4 holes a little bit bigger. I do everything in metric because, face it, unless you're riding a Harley, most of these bikes are metrics nowadays, so I like to only have to take metric tools. I don't like to carry standard as well, or SAE or Imperial, whichever term you like best. Let's get rid of the Zumo XT here to get started on this project. Now we have to remove the adapter. Once the adapter is removed, we can actually remove the factory mount. Now you don't need to remove the headlight like you see here to do this, but I thought just because I had the headlight removed, it would be a lot easier to show you what's going on in here when you have to cut this wire tie so you can unplug this connector. Be very careful you're cutting the wire tie and not the wire. Now the reason I know this is I have done this on the 2019 GSA, and I started to do a video about it, but I never finished it, so I thought I would just go ahead and do it here. So there you go, there's a connector for the GPS. And then this is the wire that actually goes up to the GPS. You have to cut all the wire ties. What I'm going to do is I am going to put a plastic bag over this with a wire tie just to keep it dry, and then I'll tuck it right back up in that hole to get it out of the way. And there you go. That is out of the way. But while I'm here and I have the headlight out, being very, very careful not to cut into the wire. Tell you what, I will put in other aspects of the video I made that never produced to go along with this, but boy, having the headlight out sure has made getting to this stuff a whole lot easier. Now that we have the wiring undone, all we have to do is take these 4 bolts out and this entire assembly comes off, but be careful in the back and I'll show you that here right now. When taking this mount off, be careful of these capture nuts. Sometimes they fall out, sometimes they don't. So when you back the screw out, I like to put my finger over it like this so the nut can't fall off, and also I will just loosen all 4 so this whole thing can rotate down, so gravity's helping me not lose those tiny little nuts. Alright, we have a T20 here. Just going to get them loose. Trying to stay out of the way of the camera so you can see what I'm doing here. Definitely want to tilt it down. Makes it easier to get the screw out. And the washer. And then on the back side, hopefully the nut doesn't fall out that way. Alright, pro tip, because I just dropped the stinking nut and washer and I'll probably never find it, but that's alright, you can always buy new if you have to. If you use one hand to push against the bolt and nut, it's a whole lot likely, or less likely, you're going to have the nut fall out, because that's what happened to me just a minute ago, and now I can't get my little pitties on this screw. Alright, as we take the last screw out, I'm trying to hold everything at once so I don't lose any more nuts, which I should be able to find it. It's just laying down here somewhere to my right. I heard it bounce a whole bunch. But as it separates, there you go. That's all it takes to take off the factory nav mount. Okay, all the washers and nuts found. Just reassemble everything, and now I will put it in a nice plastic bag to keep it safe until someday, if and when I need to put this back on. Alright, I have version 2.0 of my bracket here, which looks like it's going to fit well, but there's going to be a version 3.0 because I made this 3" by 3" or 75 millimeters square, and honestly I think 4x3 is going to work a little bit better, because I want to be able to not only thread my bolts in, which I've threaded these holes, but I want to be able to put lock nuts on the back as well for extra security, and a 3x3 just doesn't allow for that. Sorry for such a dark basement, but this is the bracket you saw me put on earlier with my super awesome hair. That was done actually this past winter. But I've had to weld this new piece on because this bracket, I needed to space it out because, yeah, there just wasn't room. It's bad enough the other bracket was rubbing my windshield raw, so I'm going to have bad spots on my windshield. While I'm here, this thumb screw is how you tighten all this. I know it doesn't lock, but they do offer a safety Torx screw that you can put in there that needs a tool to remove it. That's about the best safety you're going to get. Better than nothing, I guess. So if you want to copy my mount, you're going to build it yourself, because I just kind of did it on a whim. Okay, I've got my wire all soldered in. I've got the blue circuit configured for 4 amps, even though it only asks for 3 amps. I've got my hex EasyCan reprogrammed. I'll have to tie everything back up here. There, you heard it. You saw the little lightning bolt. Now I've got it programmed right now that this won't charge unless it's below 80%. And that's per the manufacturer's suggestion. That's why we're not showing a charge right now. See, it's connected, not charging. Okay, this RAM mount, I really liked it because one, it did lock, but as you can see here, at one point I cut this down, even though it would work without cutting it down, but the trip to Prudhoe Bay kind of destroyed everything, so I can't use it anymore. I had to cut this handle down because it would hit the windshield, but it did have a lock. And this RAM mount, and I will try to leave a link down below if I can remember what the part number is, had held up really well over 3 years of use and a trip to Alaska and back, so I can't complain. I'd say I got my money's worth out of this. Alright, I kind of misspoke in a little bit of a way in my why a TriplTek video, but this dust cover, for lack of a better term, cannot be closed when you're using the factory TriplTek mount if you have the USB charging port installed. Now with the RAM mount that I had, you could, because I had the RAM mount mounted where the charging port was on that side where the USB charging is, and the way it was designed, I could just unplug the cable and put this back in. Where, actually I think I gotta open this for, with this TriplTek mount, you cannot do that and have it in the mount because, let me try to show you this from afar. Oops, I even opened the wrong port. I opened the HDMI port, I wasn't paying attention. But either way, it's the same thing. You've kind of got to zoom in a little bit here, get it way out of the way like that, bring it in, get it put in like that, and then get this screwed in. Now remember, this is a smart device. You're not cranking down on this like you would if you were trying to put hundreds of foot-pounds or inch-pounds or newton meters, whatever form of measurement you like, of force on it, because you could probably break it and possibly crack everything. I don't know, but I just snug it down without a whole lot of force. It's in there. You can see it will auto rotate. All right, I hope you got something out of the way I did this. I know it won't work for everybody because not everybody is able to custom make their own mounts. I do believe they have some options on TriplTek's website. If they do, I will pin it in the first description along with some affiliate links to buy some of the things I bought if you would like to buy it yourself and help the channel out a little bit. All right, if you would, I'd appreciate a thumbs up and a subscribe down below, and we'll see you in the next video.